Thanks, Jeremy. Welcome, everybody. I'll just make a few comments here and then answer questions. Camp has been pretty much like you would expect a normal preseason camp, but guys are working hard. They were in really good shape. Coach Hess had them in good shape before they came back. They're tired. Saturday is next Wednesday's kind of the latter part of camp, really, but Saturday is one of the toughest days. And we were very, very fortunate that we had a good long scrimmage, about 100 plays, and didn't get anybody hurt. So everyone that played in the scrimmage came out of the scrimmage healthy and ready to practice today. So that's a real positive. The scrimmage itself was, again, pretty much what you would think. They're tired. They worked hard. I thought the effort was really good. We've got some big guys on defense that still have to pick it up and chase the ball better. We got a great look at a lot of different guys. So that's very helpful. We still didn't separate at backup quarterback. The first back other than Ty Chandler to go in would be Caleb Hood right now. So that is Caleb's making progress and doing a good job. The other guys are still competing for a spot. The wide receiver group is as we know it. I think we said it early, but I still stand by the wide receiver and running back group is more like we were in 2019 with some talent, but lack of experience and some unknowns. Bo Corrales is still limited at practice. He's doing some things, but until he can be full speed every day, we'll have to monitor him. And the other guys are doing well. One freshman that's jumped out is Bryson Nesbitt. We're really pleased with what we see with him. He can run, he can catch. He's doing a great job with his blocking because he was a detached tight end a lot of the time in high school. So we're excited about his progress and feel like he's doing well. As far as the defense is concerned, it's more who are the best players and then who can play some plays. And we've got more players now. So we're having to look at, there'll be some really talented young freshmen, but will they be ready to play at Virginia Tech? And if they are, how many plays can they play? And we were very aggressive with special teams yesterday. We spent a lot of time with punts and kicks and kicked off, and we did a lot more than we've done in the past, partially because we've got more players. And we know that we've got some ground to make up before we're as good on offense this year as we were last year. Hopefully we'll be better on defense. And then we've got to be better in the kicking game to balance that out. As far as COVID's concerned, our guys are doing a really good job of wearing their mask when they're supposed to and making sure that they're taking care of each other. We're back in all of our normal meeting rooms and we're eating back on our training tables. So we're doing things a lot more normal than we did at this time last year. And it really helps team camaraderie. Their spirit's better. They have more fun. I asked one of them the other day, when you could get your own food for training table instead of have someone serve it to you, that's better. That probably means they can eat more than anything else. But I'm really proud of them, and they're working really hard, and they're reading all the reports, and we give them to them every day about the problems with COVID and the variant across the country, and that it's back and it's real. And so we are taking it very seriously. We will be at 85% before the season starts. So that will really help us. We can go by the herd immunity guidelines. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. And as I said, guys are taking this very seriously. So we feel good about where we are moving forward. Questions?
Coach, we'll start off with Michael Coe. Michael, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. So we talked to Eugene Asante a couple of days ago, and he was very complimentary of Jeremiah Gemmel at the linebacker position. How have you seen Jeremiah really step up after Chaz left?
Michael, we've really challenged our guys to step up as leaders. And I think the best leader on this team and one of the best I've ever had as a head coach is Jeremiah Gemmel. We're having guys at night tell their stories. Where are you from? Tell us about your family. What do they do? What's the worst thing that's ever happened in your life and you have to deal with? Who do you admire most in your life? Who do you admire most on this team? And it's really interesting how many times Jeremiah comes up. It's just, I told him last night how special that must be for him to have so many guys that look up to him. So he's one of the best players on our team. He's one of the best leaders, I think, in the ACC. I think he's the most underrated player in the ACC. Not enough people talk about him, and he's not on those all-star teams, and you all should put him on there. And he is a great player. And when the pro scouts come in, they talk about Jeremiah all the time. I mean, they were high on him last year, but we've had 26 of the 32 teams represented already in preseason at our practices, and he's a buzz for the NFL. So I do think he'll be a guy that will be leaving next year too, because he's too good a player.
Thank you.
Thank you. He's got great instincts. He just knows what to do.
We got Andrew Jones up next, Coach.
Hey, Coach, the battle behind Sam. Coach Longo told us about a week ago that he didn't have a timetable for when you guys would make a decision, that the players would sort that out themselves on the field. Has there been any progress and maybe kind of a lean one way or the other? I'm not asking you to tell us who, or are they still just literally neck and neck right now?
Andrew, I think you are asking me to tell you who, but that's fair.
If you want to, go ahead.
That's your job. No, very, very honestly, we'd love to tell you, and there's not a declared guy there yet. It's interesting that both of them are really good. They're both playing well, and we get excited one day that one of them is about to separate, and then another day it just seems like it flips. It's really been interesting, and the same thing yesterday. Both made some plays. So I'm going to really challenge Phil here over the next 3 weeks to try to figure out better ways to separate. And how do we do? We even took Sam out some and didn't put him in a pass scale and just let those other two play, because obviously if Sam comes out, we've got to have somebody to step in that can win the game. And right now, that's the urgency. As far as next year, one of these two guys will be running our team, and it might even be both of them until we get somebody to separate here. So that's a concern. It's something we're aware of, something we've worked on since we've gotten back, and it's still not resolved.
As for Caleb Hood, what have you seen from him that has elevated him to the second spot behind Ty? Caleb
is 225 pounds, so he runs with a tremendous amount of power. He ran a lot as a quarterback, so the two concerns we had were pass protection, which is getting better. It's still not there. And you would expect a quarterback to struggle with pass protection. And we thought he might have some trouble carrying the ball, but he's had really, really good ball security. He's got tremendous hands out of the backfield, and he's got a really good patience about him up inside, and he's got the speed outside. But he can stop and start on a dime. So he's a guy that can start to the right, stop, plant, and dart back to the left and make people miss him. So every practice with him, we get more impressed.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Ross, you're up.
Hey, Mack. We've heard a lot about the defensive line from players and coaches so far. I was wondering what particularly stands out to you, maybe something different you've seen in the last couple days, and maybe one thing you're hoping for that group to still keep getting better at.
Ross, we've got a lot of them, and we need to continue to separate there too. Who are the guys that are going to play the bulk of the snaps? And you get guys that have played like Miles Murphy, and he played so much last year and played well. Ray Bahasic's been a warrior. He's another guy. When the guys step up and tell their story, a lot of them brag on Ray about being a great technician and playing as hard as he can all the time. So he's really, really good. And then you've got some guys that mix in and out there, but Hester continues to get better. He's a guy that we feel like can be in that mix now. So there are just a lot of guys that then you have to figure out Jaleel Taylor and KJ Binkley and how many plays Varner, Pender, Silver, how many plays can these guys play at a really, really high level? So when you get more players and especially when you get more depth, but it's really young depth and inexperienced depth, you have to do a tremendous job of trying to figure out which one of those guys are going to play the most and which ones of those guys can make a difference inside, and how many plays can Miles Murphy play before a Jaleel Taylor or a Hester might be able to take his place and play 10 plays to rest him before he comes back in. And that's the art of coaching. And that's something that we're really challenging our guys to do right now. And that was part of yesterday. And it'll be part of Saturday's scrimmage again, to figure out when does Ray Vahasic need to come out? Because by losing the 4 games we lost last year in the fourth quarter, that is a huge focus for us, Ross. And we're better, we're deeper, but what does that mean when you start looking at number of reps? Where is Ray's level? Where is Miles Murphy's level? Where a Keyshawn Silver can come in. And then you get into what they do best. So if Clyde Pender is a really good pass rusher, does he get in our speed group on second long, third long? Or do you try to get 4 defensive ends? Does Ritzy get in that package then, along with Des Evans and Tamon Fox and Tamari Fox and Chris Collins or Tyrone Hopper? Where does that group come in? So Jay and the defensive coaches right now are working really, really hard to try to figure out who, when, what package, using their talents the best. What do you bring to us? And how many plays that would be. And hopefully we'll get some of that separated out by next Saturday, because then we're 2 weeks from game time, and we're going to have to start playing the guys that are going to play.
CL, you're up.
Hi, Mack. You've mentioned several times about wanting more prolific special teams this year and special teams being able to win games. I was wondering if you could kind of elaborate on that a little bit more. Are you primarily talking about the return game and getting bigger plays in that? And how exactly do you coach, dynamic plays on special teams?
And CL, let me go back and make sure too. I don't know if I mentioned Varner with that group. Varner's done a good job with the defensive line, so don't leave him out. I have a sheet here in front of me. I was trying to see, is there anybody else I left out? You all know them better than I do. I had Murphy, Hester, Varner, Silver, Pender, Binkley, Taylor, and Vahasic, and in some cases, Ritzy going in and out, and Tamari Fox going in and out. So that's just kind of the group that we've been working. So I didn't want to leave one out. CL, the biggest thing in special teams is we haven't won any games because of it. At Texas, we were a really good punt block team. And when you're a really good punt block team, then you can be a great punt return team, because the offenses, the punt teams have to be so aware of you trying to block the punt that it hurts their coverage. So we've got all of our guys back. We've got Grayson Atkins back. We've got our punter, Ben Kiernan, back. Kennan, and you've got really good returners. So you've got guys like Josh Downs that can touch the ball on punt returns and have a chance to score every time he touches it, like Daz did last year. And we didn't do a good enough job with Daz getting him free. I thought we had a better returner than we had results. So we're really, really working hard at being and we haven't blocked a punt since we've been here. We've run into the punter a couple of times. But we want to be aggressive being a punt blocking team and therefore be a better punt return team. And we're working really, really hard every day. It's like pass rushers. Who are your best punt blockers? And you can't, unless you're doing that live in practice, you can't figure out who they are. So who are they? And let's play them. And let's be aggressive. Let's don't be afraid that we're going to get running into the punter, or let's coach it well enough in practice that we feel really, really good about being aggressive in the game. And I also think CL last year, without spring practice and without a lot of summer work and us not even knowing whether we were going to have a team or not, special teams took a hit with everybody. And the ones that did it right were usually the ones that had older teams and a special teams coach that had been there for a while. And we had a new special teams coach with a lot of young guys on it. So I am really excited about our special teams and want it to be a group that wins games instead of is in the middle of the league. And that's what we've been.
And if I could just do one follow, I was curious, when did you kind of make players getting up and telling personal stories in front of the group? When did that become like a staple of fall camp? Is that something that you did, your first tenure in Chapel Hill too?
I don't remember doing it here before, but we were at Texas and Dick Tomey came in to help us as the outside linebacker coach. And Dick had been the head coach at Hawaii and Arizona, and he'd been with the 49ers, and he came in and he did it in the position groups because he said everybody needs to know who that person is. And everybody that's sitting there critical of that attitude or who they are, you don't know their issues in their family. Same thing with us. And it's done CL primarily to get everybody to know each other better, but also so you can respect the problems that somebody lives with. And you're more willing to help and mentor and reach out to him. We're at a time where across our country, I'm not sure there's ever been more mental health issues because of all the things that we're dealing with. And everything that you read is suicides are up and mental health issues are up and alcohol consumption's up and drug use is up and spousal abuse is up. And so in our last year, all of these things are so critical. I don't want us to miss anything on trying to help these young people get through it. So when a young person gets up and talks about my dad's in prison or my mom died when I was 4 and my grandmother's got cancer right now and she's about dead and she's the stable in my life that holds everything together. Everybody in that room, man, you tear up, you get chills, and you hurt for them. So that's the purpose of it, CL, and it's really a lot more powerful than I thought it was going to be when we started doing it. And for me too, and I know how to coach a kid, a young man better if I know what's going on with his life and his family. And when somebody says, yeah, my younger brother's on drugs, my older brother's in jail, there's a load. So you coach them differently and you talk to them differently. And it just helps us know a little bit more about every one of their personal lives. And that helps us as a family to relate to each other. It keeps a player from saying, that guy acts like a jerk. They're saying after they hear the story, oh boy, we need to help him. So it's just, it's a very, very powerful thing that we're doing that I think really helps our team.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Rick Barnes, you're up.
Hey, Mac, we talked a lot back in December and January about the kids who opted out of the Orange Bowl. But in talking with Josh Downs and Eugene Asante the past couple of weeks, both of those guys have said that because they were able to play in that game and actually perform well, it gave them an incredible confidence boost this offseason. Just curious if you have seen that confidence boost, and was that an unexpected silver lining of some of those guys not playing?
Greg, I would think absolutely. Josh and Eugene act like they've been starters for a long time, and that's just the confidence I feel like they got out of the Orange Bowl. And we feel like they're ready to go, and they're going to be really good players. So we're not worried about either one of them. And I think moving forward, what's going to happen with college football, and especially until we see where this 12-game playoff possibility may go, I think we'll still see a lot of kids opt out. And what you're going to do is just you're going to be playing a younger team. You're going to put your younger guys out there and turn them loose. And in some cases, bowls may end up being more of a little shot at looking at what preseason looks like for next year. And that's kind of what happened with us. As tough as it was to throw those two young guys out there, they played great. So it did help them not only with experience against a top 5 team on a national stage, but it helped give them a lot more confidence going into the offseason.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Ralph Russo, you're up.
Good afternoon, Mac. Good to see you.
See you, Ralph.
Listen, I know you're super focused on your team, but I'd love to hit you up on something that's a little more bigger picture as always. And that's, last year was such a strange season, and strange on different levels for different teams. And then you go into this season and it creates super seniors. You have transfers, more freedom than ever before. I'm wondering if all these things over the last 12 months make this season a little more uncertain. In other words, is it harder to sort of extrapolate what we saw last year and think what we'll see this year?
Ralph, I think absolutely. We haven't even really started looking at Virginia Tech's personnel yet, but and what we'll do is we'll look at the first 4 or 5 games because things change after that. But transfer portal's changed everything. Super seniors coming back has changed everything. We said, I think is the first day of camp, all right, all you older guys, all you seniors, get up and eat first. Half our team could have been seniors and the rest of them be freshmen because it's just so messed up now with roster management. You don't know who's who and how many you've got, and it'll really be interesting to see how all this works out with the numbers 2 or 3 years from now. Because that's when it'll really affect us. But it's an interesting time that there were over 2,000 young people in the transfer portal for football. And that's a lot more than last year, understanding that now they have one free shot at transferring. And only 27% a few weeks ago had found a place to go. And here we are starting school. So I'm concerned about those guys that don't find a place, but a lot of teams are different and better because they were able to get 5 to 9 transfers. That's half your team. When you look at starters, and you wouldn't take them unless they were really, really good. So I do think you're right. It's harder to pick teams in preseason because we're really not sure who's on every team yet. We've got people studying that now. So it'll be really interesting to see going forward, Ralph, what the transfer portal does too. Will it slow down since only 27% found a place to go? Will it pick up because guys that are going from a good team to a great team had a better experience? And that's just something we'll all have to look at as we're going forward. We only took one, but right now he would be our starting tailback because we had less experience at that position. And now people, I think, Ralph, will start looking right now, what do we need for next year that we can't get with a freshman? And I do think it'll change freshman recruiting some, that people will continue to look at the transfer portal, and then what is tampering? That gets to be very delicate when you've got a guy who recruited a guy on another team. I said the other day, one of the guys that transferred last year, I asked one of our assistants, why don't you call him and check on him? And they said, Coach, that's tampering. I mean, we can't. So there's a fine line between wanting to reach out to one of our guys who wouldn't be coming back here, but it still would be considered tampering if I was calling him to say, how you doing? How's it going? So, but I think you're right on it. Preseason ratings have always been about pride and projections, but now I think they're probably going to be harder to predict just because of what you said. It'll take us 4 or 5 games to figure out who each team is now, where we used to be able to follow the recruits and see how it was for them. And a lot of teams now are just going to be a lot different than we would have thought in January.
Thank you, Mac.
Thank you, Ralph.
We'll go to Art Chansey. Go ahead, Art.
Hey, Mac, you've had more than 30 openers. Is there a time when you get closer to the season, whether it's when you put the first game plan in for the opening opponent or any time, that you get a feeling that we're ready, we're pretty good, we're not as good as I thought, or I don't really know? And then when you reach that point, how has that turned out as you remember? Are you usually right on the money when you have a particular feeling about it, how your team's readiness?
Art, I've learned that you don't know in openers. In fact, I learned many years ago that more openers are lost than won. You have to be really, really careful that you don't work your team so hard that in the opening game they're tired. You've got to get a lot of work done and still have fresh legs, and that's a very difficult thing to monitor. And we practiced 100 plays in the heat on Saturday, and you do it again next Saturday, and you're trying, when they're tired in the heat, to get a lot of things done and try to evaluate your personnel without getting them hurt. And they're more likely to get hurt when they're tired. And then you don't want to back off too quickly and not be in shape for the opener. And then the other problem with openers is you've worked from the Orange Bowl until the day of the Virginia Tech game to try to improve the 3 phases that you have. And the tendency is to put in too much. And especially with an older offensive line and experienced quarterback. So, and the other part of this is, you know, you can open up with a really easy team that's more like a scrimmage. You can open up with a good, strong team at home, or you can open up with a strong team on the road. And what we've got is a team that we haven't done very well against in the past on the road in a very difficult environment as the opener. So my experience has been, Art, you just try to do anything that you possibly can to win the opener. You don't know if you're any good or not. That's a game you come out, figure out a way to win it and come out. And then at some point in the early season, you're going to have a really difficult game that's either tight in the fourth quarter or you're behind and you have to come back and win. And when you do, that's when you walk out of there and say, okay, we're pretty good. We've got the leadership. We've got the confidence. We didn't panic. We handled all this well, but that may be 3 to 5 games before you figure out who you are.
Thanks, Mac.
Thank you.
Go to Casey. Casey, you're up.
Hi, Mac. Just wondering, I saw you posted about Harris Barton being at practice this weekend. I know you talk about Tar Heel pride. What do you just kind of hope your guys get from having a guy like that and others who you bring in to the program to have speak to them?
Casey, I love bringing our ex guys back. I didn't coach Harris, but he's arguably the best lineman to ever play here. And he had a tremendous NFL career, and now he's going into the Hall of Fame. And I want the guys that have done what our guys want to do to meet them. And when you bring a Harris to practice, I'll ask him, what would you tell these guys that you wish you'd have known when you were their age? And then the second question is, why were you so good? What separated you from other guys? We had Aaron Ross out there today. Aaron came to town to see us and say hello. And Aaron won the Thorpe at Texas. He won the national championship at Texas. He won 2 Super Bowls with the New York Giants. So I need Aaron talking to these guys and telling them, here's what I thought at your age. And here's why I played so well. And here's why our team won. And here's why I did so well in the NFL. Because all of those guys in the secondary want to be Aaron Ross. I remember Eddie Robinson, who I just loved as a coach, told me one time that anytime a great player walks on the field, he stopped practice. He had a horn that he would blow. And when a great one came on the field, the whole team would come up, because he said that great one's going to tell them something that's more important than what we're going to do with 5 minutes of practice. We don't go to that extreme, but every time we can get a person who has been very, very successful in our team meeting to talk to them, I'm all in. And Harris did a tremendous job yesterday of talking about why he was successful, and Aaron Ross did a great job today. So I love that. A lot of people are talking about the 40-year decision instead of 4. When Aaron Ross graduated in 2006, and he's still coming back to see us, that just reinforces that. When we're working, we've got a Zoom coming up with all of our lettermen. I don't want the letterman from the Coach Fedora area or the Coach Davis area or the Coach Bunning area, the Coach Torbush area, or the era that I coached here before. I don't want them feeling like Mack's back, so only his guys are welcome. This is their university. So when a Harris Barton's here, even though he didn't play for me, I want him back, man. I want him around. And there were other guys at practice yesterday. So I want our lettermen back involved. They built the place, and I don't want it to be divided by coach. That's not fair to them. It's their university. They built a football program. They need to be honored when they come back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Casey.
Gregory, you're up.
Mack, I wanted to ask you more about the scrimmage yesterday. What were some of the goals that you guys had going in outside of special teams, and what do you feel like you accomplished as a team?
Greg, you do not normally talk a lot about schemes. There was no game plan, so that's why there's good plays and bad plays sometimes that some will look bad, and you say, yeah, we hadn't worked on that yet. Don't worry about it. We'll pick that up. Or they slipped one out on us. Yeah, we'll scheme that differently. But what you want right now is total depth chart. You walk out of there. I've got it sitting here again. I watched it twice last night. I watched it again this morning. And when you're talking about 120 players, you got to be careful that first time you watch it, you're tired and just got out of the heat and you're mad at everybody. And then the second time you watch it, you see a little bit something different. And then you talk to your coaches, you have a staff meeting, and they say, oh, so-and-so, Cedric Gray played really well, so I'll go back and watch him more. So it was totally about depth chart. And it was totally about, we've got to start separating guys on how many plays, who are the guys that are going to make a difference in the game, and who are the guys that can rest them. And that's what we're really focused on again this week. And then with kicking game, it's personnel. Y'all mentioned it before, but we're working so hard to be great in the kicking game that we graded every play yesterday, and we had 4 live punts and we had kickoff returns that were live. So we're just doing things more aggressively earlier than we have in the past to start separating that personnel as well. So that was our biggest goals. Now, Caleb took a step up at running back. We know where our receivers are headed, and some stepped up and some took a step back there. We said Bryson Nesbitt's making a move to try to get some playing time, which is good. We wanted to separate both quarterbacks. Both of them are really good. So we're glad they're there, but I'm sure if I didn't even talk about it a lot in the staff meeting yesterday, because I could see it, there wasn't separation. There were good plays, and there were plays that you wish you'd had back. So they still got to separate, and we've got some time to do that. Defensively, we pretty much know who that first defense is going to be because they were all back. But who's the next guy? And we got a lot of bodies. We got a lot of guys. And will a freshman be ready to play 15 plays at Virginia Tech? Will he be able to play 25? Do we play more linebackers than we've played? We haven't played but 2 linebackers for 2 years. So do we play more now? Do we put in a third linebacker to start early? Do we rotate early? So we're kind of growing as a staff as our team grows and gets better. And at the same time, we're a preseason top 10 team with a whole lot of work to do. And that's the other message to the players. Don't sit around and start thinking about yourself. We're going to a hostile place that's very well coached football team and in Virginia Tech that doesn't like us very much and has a circle around our head. So get better. Quit talking about how good you are and continue to get better. And those were kind of the goals for yesterday.
So as far as the depth chart's concerned, yesterday kind of set the base for those secondary guys, and then you can kind of figure out maybe putting more pressure and just kind of see how they react, figure out workload for them with the future scrimmages.
Absolutely. I wrote down today that we've got to keep pressure on all the guys. We've been giving up too many deep balls, and then the quarterbacks haven't hit enough of the deep balls. So but there's been too many people open. So we're talking hard to our corners this morning about, man, we have got to win the deep ball at corner to be able to be a great team. And we're not doing that all the time right now. And then talking to the quarterbacks, we can't work so hard to have protection and the right call and beat a guy deep and not hit him. So it's just those things, Greg, that we're really putting a tremendous amount of pressure on this team to try to improve in each area. And my job is to sit down with the assistant coaches, which I do after a scrimmage, and write down everything I saw that I liked, that I thought was good, and everything that they need to improve. And I said it this morning to the team, and we had a walkthrough, and I'll say it again at 3:30 this afternoon at our staff meeting. If you're seeing it in practice, it's going to show up in the game. So if you're seeing it in practice, whether it's a penalty, whether it's a turnover, and it's showing up in practice, fix it, or we're going to see it at Virginia Tech. And that's your job. It's the player's job and the coach's job to get those things fixed. And it is more difficult when you play against your best against their best every day. We were the blue team against the blue team defense all day yesterday. So we put the best against the best out there because we want them competing at a very high level so they will understand the intensity in practice that we're going to see when we get to Virginia Tech. And then we put the white team against the white team, and then we scrimmage the gray team at the end. But we have challenged our guys that if you will play at the highest level you possibly can every day, you're giving your teammate on the other side of the ball an advantage when we get to game day, because they've already played against a really good player for 3 straight weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Anything else for Coach before we wrap up? Looks like we're good, Coach.